welcome back to Somebody's Watching. I'm Marcel. This is Michael. Today we're going to be diving deep into the dark web. So, Michael, the dark web, we've mentioned it in quite a few of our episodes, and I guess today we can kind of just, explain it to the listeners out there, as well as, talk about what's so interesting and why it's so fascinating that people want to really listen or understand what it actually is.
Yeah, it's quite great. I mean, we've been teasing it a little bit, not a little bit, quite a lot, because it was a build up toward that, let's talk about it, let's dive into it. So for today, Marcel, I know that you usually just go on the website and you want to explore your things, but then how do we access the website, the dark web? But then even before that, what is the dark web, Marcel?
Well, I guess if I had to explain it, the dark web is quite interesting, or the internet is quite interesting. So the internet is actually comprised of three different layers. The first is your surface web. This is whatever you can Google, your YouTube, Amazon, And then it goes into the deep web. So, Michael, you of course know the deep web is pretty much like where your email domains is. This is password protected searches.
Of course.
And then from there we get into the dark web, which is pretty much just 1% of the whole internet. And the dark web, what it's actually, it's quite difficult to reach, but it's actually simplified, or we can actually simplify it for you. To get onto the dark web, you'll need to go on what's called a Tor. Do you know
what?
A Tor.
T-O-R. Yeah. Actually, I was thinking about Marvel and, the Armor of Thor or something.
Thor's hand.
But now that you mention it, is it because I've been using some of them, just here and there, like the Onion browser and things. But if you can just try to say, is it like my Mozilla Firefox, or my Edge, or is it something quite more different? Regarding in the way they are working.
It's much more different. I mean, so as you mentioned, onions. So we all know that an onion has different layers. And to access the dark web, the best way I could explain it is imagine you're trying to, ship or put a box, or actually a variety of boxes into the mail. So now each person that has to now take it to the next destination has the one layer of the box. So he opens up the box, but he can only see where that box needs to go to before the next box gets opened, of course.
Okay.
So this is kind of a way of saying it's encrypted, and it's going from one encryption, or being opened from one encryption to the next.
Okay. So, just a recap of what you say. So basically, me, as a newbie, if I want to go onto the dark web, I have to find one of those Tor thingy. Then every time that I want to access the different layers, I have to go deep and dive deep as I can go until I reach the dark web. But then why would I go on the dark web that I cannot access on the normal web? What is so mysterious about it for people to even give it a name? We're in a science fiction movie, dark web.
Well, the thing about the dark web, it's quite untraceable. This is actually why a lot of suspicious activities happens on the dark web, By suspicious activities, I mean, back in the days, there was the Silk Road. So the Silk Road was literally a platform where people could, of course, buy and sell illicit drugs.
Oh.
And the reason it was so popular...
By the way, there is laws and stuff. And you should not buy drugs online. Please don't do that.
Yeah, of course. Don't buy, don't do drugs, kids.
It's totally illegal. Get arrested.
But just to give you an explanation on why the dark web is quite fascinating, is because it's unfiltered, and this is why a lot of people use it. And as I mentioned, it's quite untraceable. So if I can use the example of the Silk Road, you wouldn't know who you're buying the substance from and who is purchasing the substance. This is completely anonymous, and this actually comes back into the early stages, and actually right now they still use it, of cryptocurrencies. So everything on the transactions on the dark web would be used by cryptocurrencies. So
Then, now, actually, you say something quite interesting. You say like the buyers and the sellers, they don't know each other.
no,
Now, as is it actually a regulated place, or is it
it's
just like the far
unregulated.
west, like in the
The
old
Wild
days
West,
where we
yeah,
had
yeah.
cowboys and all those stuff? I mean, everybody
Yeah.
want to know the danger of like going in such platform. Like for example, me, can I stumble on the dark web website by mistake? Me, just on a night, just typing some stuff, and I can stumble in. Oh,
Highly
really it's difficult?
unlikely, highly
Okay.
unlikely. However, what I will say is if you do go on the dark web, please don't use your actual name. Don't use your Gmail accounts or anything because it is filled with hackers. I mean, another thing that's very interesting about the dark web, we have mentioned about ransomware attacks that have been targeting businesses. And on the dark web, there is actually ransomware as a service. You can hire a hacker to go break into a corporate and they can then of course use
Interesting.
that to ransom the accounts. But the dark web, it's filled with a lot of things. Like we mentioned, it's unfiltered, uncensored, and it's untraceable if you do use it correctly, so using a VPN.
But
So
then it
yeah.
also bring about the question of like, that things when somebody tell you, okay, there is this shop, you can go in and then just buy some stuff. I think it's happened to you once. You're looking for something to buy, like maybe a sweet and stuff, and then you have your friend that say, okay, must go to this shop, they sell whatever you're looking for. And then when you arrive in the shop, you don't realize that it's the shop. So imagine like I go to the dark web, am I gonna know that I'm in the dark web? Because like you said, it's such a place that I believe is like a dark place where you're not a dark place, like a dark room, but a place where if you don't interact with them, they don't interact with you. Because they don't know that you are there. Or do they know? It's like when you reach it, everybody in the neighborhood know like, oh, there's a new in the neighborhood. Like go greet him. Or am I like totally hidden when I arrive there? How do they know that I'm in the dark web?
Well, of course, yeah, you have to interact, you have to. So what's actually interesting is there's sites that you can go, so whatever you're looking for. Look, we haven't gotten, trust me, there's a lot more nefarious things going on the dark web. We've all heard of stories. I mean, it goes as far to the extent of human trafficking,
Yeah.
There's
Quite-
also, you get
quite something.
hitmen for hire, so I know I'm not saying you should, but there's people out there that, they want to, of course, do some bad things.
Okay.
There's a lot of things out there. But I think what's very important to everyone is that the dark web isn't just all bad. It's also been used for quite some good.
Yeah.
So some of it is for journalism. I mean, the BBC, the New York Times, even now the Washington Post, they all have these onion sites, I guess, onion links.
So are you basically saying like for the specialists and everything, we can actually find valuable information on the dark web?
Well, the reason I mention that is because what they use it for is for whistleblowers. So you know how nowadays everything is being tracked, whether
Yeah.
it's with your cookies or people tracking your IP address.
Yeah.
And let's say you have some confidential information and it's some serious stuff. So I'm not sure if you know Julian Assange.
No.
He was a journalist and he had WikiLeaks.
Oh, WikiLeaks and I remember that things. Yeah,
So what he used that as a platform for people to, of course, expose and whistleblow on current events and things happening in governmental and corporate organizations that were downright awful. So that's also something to consider. But I think if I have to break it down for everyone, the dark web is like the Wild West. You can find everything. And this comes back to your security as well as your online safety. So, Michael, what I think I can ask you is like, why should we be wary on what is on the dark web about ourselves?
It's quite difficult to say, Masa. I don't want everybody to know things about me. like I post online, like everybody, I believe so. And sometimes you want to delete them. I always have that fear, like those things can end up in the dark web and then they are resold to other people. But then another thing, like you mentioned, it's quite important. Like we can find some valuable information on the dark web, like the whistleblower, the people talking about some nefarious activity in the companies. But then also, I believe for some businesses, they can like check on the dark web to see if like there's a potential attack, especially if they have a security team that can like monitoring the activities around the
scour and mitigate the attack from actually happening.
So just like the example of you say, the Wild West was wild, but there was also opportunities, like there were mining goals, there was colonies that were going there. So the dark web have like kind of that shades, you know, there's good and bad, depending on what you are there for. But then of course, it's always to take precaution about how you access it. That basically why it's dark and it's somewhat difficult to access. But then at the same time, if you're able to access it and you are there, you know, you should know why you are going there.
Yeah.
And just be secure.
I guess to add on that point, why we should also all be wary is, as we've already mentioned, the Standard Bank breach, the NAC breach, what tends to happen is, of course, they auction off this information, this data on the dark web. And this can be anything from your credit card, your identity, your physical address, maybe even your postal address. It can, and this is what hackers and, of course, shady people use to, of course, do things like identity theft or SIM swapping. You know, just different types of attacks and different types of ways to really affect an everyday person from these leaks. That's why I think it is also a serious thing that we need to delve more into, and why I think a lot of businesses should be wary on what is on the dark web, because you never know when the next attack is going to happen. These things, of course, they take time, as we've previously mentioned.
So basically, like, it's a source of information, because there's information there. It's just about, are they like trustworthy? Like you say, there's hackers there that sell their services. So maybe some, when they have their auction, they maybe say which company they're gonna attack next. So basically, I do believe we should also check about, like, for any company, you know,
but
just
what
to
they
know
also
what's happening.
do is what's I think very important is sometimes there's people out there with the sensitive information, and they're like, hey, I'm looking for a hacker to hack into this company. So I do think that it is important for corporates and businesses just to make sure and be well informed what is out there. Okay. That's why we were kind of pressing in a few episodes, change your passwords, you know.
Well, of course, all of that is just some security measure, and then we're going to explore some other one in the future. But then, definitely, it's quite...
Can I give the listeners a tip? If you've ever gotten a call and the person knows your first name and your last name, let's say they're calling you Michael, and they know your ID number, it's not a coincidence why they know these things about you. There was probably a leak of your information somewhere, and I think the best case scenario in that incident is hang up the phone. What do you say?
Yeah, I'm a curious person. Of course, I want to end the conversation with the person, but they need not do that. So one last thing that I would like to know, Masa, is like, can everybody access the dark web, or is it restricted to some people?
I do believe anybody can access it.
Okay.
We don't want to, of course, delve into how to access it, because I don't want anyone to get hacked, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of shady people there.
Yeah, definitely.
And there's a lot of interesting things. But I do want to say that what is out there about you is actually very important, especially on the dark web, because that's what they're going to use against you. We dove into the deep.
Yeah. I kind of like to go clean my browser now because of you. But it was quite interesting topic, definitely.
Yeah.
So the dark web, we know it now. There just be precautions about it, I believe so.
Yeah, no, I think we can wrap this guy up. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Marcel.